So what I want to go over in this next video is over the course of the video. I want to explain the bosses and my thought processes on DPSing them, and just specifically for Feral Cat at this point in time. Um, I just want to break down every single fight and what you should or shouldn't do, in my point of view, just based off of my footage that I've gathered, and just point out some of the mistakes I made, some of the mistakes I didn't make, and just kind of roll through everything in a 25 man setting. 10-man settings are a little bit different, but 25 man is what I'm going to mostly focus on because that is what I do for the most part as far as DPS goes. There are some differences between 10 and 25. There are some fights that are harder on 10 than there are on 25, but for the majority of them, I'm just going to be focusing on the DPS portion in 25 man. I can try and explain a little bit of what to do for 10 man specifically, but that all depends on your group, that all depends on your raid leader's call, and it all just depends on what strategies you're doing. So you kind of have to adjust to specific strategies depending on what your raid leader calls for. So here's my current parses. There's no way I'm the one of the best ferals in the world, and I don't boast to be one of them. I just want to explain some things that some people have asked me to take a look at and try and break down some of the bosses. But I just do my best to try and explain some of the things. This is 100% my opinion, nothing to be taken to a specific degree of this is what you should do. This is, again, 100% my opinion. So first, we want to start with bots. We're going to start with bot just because I can move into Throne of Four Winds and try and get both of them in one video. So here you can see that we are on Halphus. I'm going to try and Fairy Fire off the start, but it misses. And I should have charged in to get an extra set proc for my Stampede, but I didn't, so that's one mistake I did make. As soon as all the Drakes are all grouped up, I'm going to start my swipe rotation here, which is popping Tiger's Fury and Berserk and just swiping away. You want to try and maintain your Savage Roar. You want to try and maintain at least Rake so you can put a new Savage Roar up. But I failed to do so here, which is a slight loss in DPS. It's not a huge loss, but it's still a loss in DPS. As you can see, I'm starting to fall down in the numbers I'm putting out. But I get back in my rotation. As soon as all the Drakes are dead, I go back and focus our primary targets, which happens to be Storm Rider here. So we have the Drakes marked in the order that we want to kill it. Each guild tends to do it in a different order, but this is the way that we've done it mostly. When you have 3 or more targets, you should be swiping still, and as you can see with my GCD counter at the very bottom of the screen, I'm still swiping away, doing as many swipes as I possibly can, trying to keep up my Savage Roar and trying to keep up Rake on at least the primary target that I have. I do let it fall off, which isn't such a big deal, but it's still something that you want to try and maintain. So we still have 2 more Drakes plus Halphus. We want to get both of these Drakes down. So I'm still swiping because there are 3 targets, keeping Rake on my primary target. I think that you should be throwing your Fairy Fire out to the other targets as well when you have just the Drakes up, not the Whelps, just so you can get that little bit of extra damage on each one of them. I do fail to do that on this, but it's something that I should be trying to practice more and more as time goes on, just so I can get the extra damage in and get other people to do a little bit of extra damage. But now we're down to 2 targets, so here's where I'm going to build up my combo points, put all my combo point generators on, and keep up my dots on the boss. But when it's about dead, I do swap over and then start my main thing. We completely ignore Slate in this, and we just focus the boss because there's no point to kill the final Drake when you've already released it. It's not going to do that much damage to the tanks at this point, so our focus is just to kill Halphus. Each group may decide to do something a little bit different there, but that's up to the group and it's up to your raid leader. Try and avoid the fire barrages as much as possible because it can kill you. Even when he is stuck in place, you should still be avoiding them. trying to get as much damage in as possible as well. We get kind of unlucky on this next Furious Roar, and we have a bunch of stuff coming at the same time. You can still pop Bark Skin while you're stunned by the Roar, so that is what I tried to save it for. And then second Berserk is about to come up. I'm waiting for my Tiger's Fury to come up before I'm popping it. It's either that or I fail to do so. But when you have your second Berserk, then you should be trying to use it. I actually used it before. I used my Tiger's Fury, which is a bad play. But as you can see here, here comes the Furious Roar, and here comes the Fire Bombs. I have 20 seconds on my thing, so some people are going to die, but a lot of people still live. I got lucky and had some extra heals going into that. So, yeah, this is just the beginning of the fights for this. Okay, next is the Twin Dragons, is what I just call them. On this fight, you want to start off with a Feral Charge and try and charge back in as much as possible. Because there's a lot of AoE going out. I just trying to avoid as much. Get my pre-pot going. I don't charge in, which is, again, something I need to be practicing more. It's one of the failures I do mostly. I get all of my debuffs up, try and get my big rip timer up, and then I'm just popping my Berserk and just shredding away. When you're in your Berserk window, there's one thing that I need to get a little bit better at, and it's, as you can see, the first one I did there was a bad move, but I do end up getting it off, is my Savage Roar. I want to try and keep up as much as possible. There's another rip that goes out. So I'm getting like 3 combo point spenders out in a Berserk window, which is going to be pretty huge for later on. But the main focus is just single target for this fight. So there's not a lot to explain. You want to try and avoid all the AoEs, keep stacked. This fight is on normal. I have done it on heroic, and it's not much different than what you can see here. The main difference is that you're gonna probably go down, and if you do go down, you need to be killing the ads that are in the other phase of this fight. The ads don't have a lot of health. You want to get like 10, 11 stacks of the debuff before you come back out. But again, a lot of this is just a single target fight for us Feral Druids, dodging as much as we can, avoiding the AoEs, but you can see one just about to come out on me, so I move away from it, and this fight will go down pretty quickly because it is normal. I do have to get away from the boss here. There's my Feral Charge, and I'm going to use that to build combo points onto this guy, hopefully, and get a good rip up. You can see that my 15% rip is applied, and you don't want to reapply your Ferocious Bite like I just did there too early, because then you lose out on that 15% damage from your Tiger's Fury. So that's another thing I need to be watching out for, is when my rip is up, did I use Tiger's Fury with it? If I did, then it's going to go away. That 15% is just going to go away. But yeah, it's a pretty easy fight. As you can see, it's straightforward, single target. If you do end up going down, then you have to kill the ads. Okay, so next up is Elemental Monstrosity. And this fight, it is mostly a 2-target fight, so this is one that you should be practicing. I don't practice it here. I need to get better at practicing some of the things that I'm saying. For melee, you're mostly focusing Ignatius on the first part of this. So I'm getting my dots up. I, again, need the Feral Charge, get my Fairy Fire up sooner, and just pop my Berserk away. This is one of the fights that you kind of do want to be target swapping on. Once you get your full bleed up and everything, get your new rake on the target, should be swapping it. And you should be swapping to the other one, just trying to get both of them up. Ideally, I want to start on Glacius and then get my Tiger's Fury Berserk up so that I can stay on Ignatius when Glacius is pulled away. And I can just keep pumping and going on them both. But when we get them both down to about 50%, which should be here shortly, as you can see that Ignatius is a little bit higher than Voludius and avoiding the waterlogged is kind of hard as a melee, but it still can be done. We didn't get a lot of fire, so we kind of got really cucked in some of this, and a lot of people get frozen by this next glaciate that just went out, which is me as well. And I think I die here. Yeah, I do die, but it's fine. It's not something I'm too concerned about, but again, for these two, you should be doing your two targets swapping and getting both debuffs up. This isn't a great POV, but this is what I had for recording at the time, so I'm just going to roll with it. Ideally, you want to be alive during this, but we didn't get fire when he charged out, so that's kind of something that needs to be worked out with the raid. I know a way of fixing it is that the tanks need to be on the platform instead of on the steps, and then the range just have to be kind of max range, keeping it. But I did die from burning blood because it didn't get dispelled from me, or I didn't get it to enough people. I still don't quite understand that part of the fights, but that's something that you really have to focus on for 25-man heroic as well. But this is going to be one of the last ones I'm probably going to progress on heroic. But yeah, that pretty much covers this entire fight. Once it goes into the last phase, just try and avoid all of the circles on. So you want to try and avoid all the circles on the ground and avoid the AoE that comes out from the elemental monstrosity. All right, and then here's the final fight that I currently have footage for is Cho'Gall. This again we're doing on normal. This guild hasn't done a lot of progress on it, which I'm okay with. I like progressing on some of the fights, but this is one that we're not focusing at the current time for heroic. Again, mistake. Didn't feral charge as I should have. You should be feral charging and fairy firing. Got my Berserk Tiger's Fury combo going, and I'm just going hard on those shreds. I did make one better improvement there, is I got a new Savage Roar up before I did my Ferocious Bite, so there's a plus on that. But yeah, you should be at least trying to go back out and get a feral charge in when you're low on energy. I do help with a lot of the interrupts because I am specting to interrupt for this fight specifically and a few other fights, just because there's not a lot of kicks going out. I am trying to absorb the corruption. You shouldn't be doing this, but because this is normal, I just get every single one, and I just don't care because it is normal. It's gonna die. This is an easy one-shot fight, and you can feral charge back in if you can get them pretty easily. The mages should be going for this every time I'm standing in the shadow crashes because, again, I don't care. But it's a matter of how your preference to the group. If you can get away with that in a heroic fight, that'd be amazing because you'll get a lot of extra damage. But the chances of you living long enough in a heroic fight are pretty slim from what I have done in progress of this fight from a tanking perspective. But yeah, overall an easy fight. It's pretty much just a tank and spank fight, single target DPS the whole way until the final phase. Once it swaps to the next phase, which it should do here in, I want to say about a minute. You can cleave a little bit, but I don't think that they really count the ads for the DPS portion. So ferals aren't the greatest at cleave anyways when they have to swap targets. But ideally, you just want to focus Cho'Gall down, do as much damage as you possibly can. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm starting to gain my corruption up, and I have corruption sickness. So with corruption sickness, I am running away and puking away from the group, which is common practice for everybody who gets full corruption. They don't dispel the dot on me. I should have gotten at least one dispel. Keep gaining and gaining corruption, and then you can see here I'm almost maxed out. And now I'm maxed out and I'm doing extra damage. There's a lot of extra damage going out, and I'm keeping up with the group because I have the full corruption. But now at this point, like, everybody's breeding, puking on each other. They're not even caring because, again, this is normal. This isn't something that you want to practice for heroic fights. Um, but Cho'Gall's easy enough on normal that it really does not matter. Again, focus on your grades priorities instead of your own. So yeah, that just concludes what I've gotten from bots. I'm not going to do Throne of Four Winds because I didn't realize how long this video was going to be just for the bosses. So I'll get that one in another video. It's going to be a really short one. But bot is overall easy, and I haven't really done a lot of the hard fights on bot anyways. But once you get into them, and once I get into them, I'll do a new one for just those heroic fights that I skipped for this one, which is the final four, because I only covered Halfus on this one. Really, I did cover a little bit of the Twin Drakes, and that one's not really difficult. It's more of the final two, Elemental Monstrosity and Cho'Gall, that can be quite difficult. I haven't done any Sinestro Prog yet, but when I get to that, I will do that one in a complete different video and just focus on that fight specifically, because it is a long fight and a lot of explaining to do from a DPS perspective as well as a tanking perspective. But yeah, I hope you all had a good fun watching these with me, watching my playbacks, and learning a little bit about what I intend to do and what I could do better as a Feral DPS on Bastion of Twilight, the bosses that are specifically for normal, and some of the heroic encounters. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, leave a like, and just message me on Discord if you have any further questions. Thanks.